Tech Hub. I'm Steven.
AP.
And I'm Jared.
Welcome, guys. Hey.
Jinx.
All right.
Hey, thanks for my line.
It's you guys.
I had it on the board. It's right behind you.
So before we get started, Steven, we brought this up a couple times, the Pats.
We don't have to
We had
talk
a
about
stand-in quarterback. It seemed like
I didn't realize that you were a fan.
well, I'm not. I'm just
Oh, okay. He did a fantastic job.
okay. That's all
Better
we need to
than
talk about.
anybody expected. And everything is running really, really bright back in New England.
It's a good. It's a good
Honestly,
day.
the best part about having Sunday night games is they're at 6:30 at night in Denver.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Sports time's fantastic out here.
Beautiful. So it's been a couple weeks, and we've gotten a lot of questions, a lot of repeat questions, something that you and I have been getting ever since we started in these roles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The question I've been getting, and I don't know if you've seen this before, but it happened to me twice today. The difference between Navisworks and BIM 360 glue.
There is a difference.
The age-old question.
We actually just had a sales rep ask us that question.
I mean,
or actually ask for
How
clarification.
many times have you got asked
Yeah.
this question? I'm curious.
Well, we just had the third time, just
But
a few
like in the
minutes ago.
last 5 months, has just been.
I mean, it's probably at least once a week, right? I mean, at least once.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a fun question to answer.
It is. It is. I mean, it's a hard one to answer at first glance, right? Because the way everybody looks at it, and Jared, we were talking about this earlier, the versus.
Exactly. The adversarial,
Mhm.
this versus that.
Right.
Right.
Glue
Right.
versus Navisworks.
It's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be the and Navisworks and.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes into a really nice, seamless workflow that even though it's two different solutions, they actually make one connected workflow.
Definitely, and I think that's for me probably the biggest difference when you add glue into the scenario, right? When we talk about Navisworks, historically been the model aggregator, has done a fantastic job, still is a great tool, but the biggest hurdle is actually getting the right information into Navisworks, right? That painful process has always been there. Basically, the extended team, how I've seen it, everybody once a week, maybe twice a week. Or I'm sorry, once every 2 weeks, twice a week would be crazy.
That's a lot of appendage
basically,
of models.
yeah, basically, the idea being, you have this set time as a team.
Yeah.
Everybody's uploading. Then one person with their role, usually it's the VDC, downloads all those models, aggregates them in Navisworks, runs clash report, and then sends that report out to everybody to go ahead and fix their line items. Right?
When does this ever go right? By the way, because we've been exposed to projects, and I've never seen this go 100% right. I mean, this scenario has so many ways of going bad.
Sure.
One thing that pops out in my mind that is just an absolute stopgap is what happens when somebody uploads an old version of a model.
Yeah, and that happens all the time.
And who's going to own up to that? Like, oh, you've been coordinating off a model that we tossed out in the garbage.
I've actually done that before. So
only once?
One time.
Only one time? You want to elaborate
that's all
on
I'm going to
that?
admit to.
No, that's it?
No, but it happens. It happens all the time, right?
It does.
Especially when you talk about a project timeline, when you're doing this every week, I mean, there's just a lot of margin for error there. Where I think with BIM 360 Glue, since it is that cloud service, that portal lives natively within any authoring tool that our customers are typically using, Revit, AutoCADs, Navisworks even, that direct connectivity to be able to push those models into one central location. Everybody has access. You got a timestamp. You got a version control. Effectively just mitigates, sidesteps that whole FTP process.
I got a hankering for like a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Do you feel it coming on?
I don't know if I ever have.
I know. I just feel like if there ever is a time to hanker to show this in form.
Hope it's good.
I think it will be. But I think in all seriousness, I think what we need to talk about is process, and I think we are. And we think we need to talk about what is the new process, or what are we saying happens. And
right.
So I've got a sample up here. Maybe let's talk through it, because what I'm going to show is the traditional model coordination process. And just real quick, we've got the entities here of architecture, structural, and MEP. And we, traditionally have their own models that they work on. Maybe you guys just talk through what can happen. So down here, I've got my virtual design construction person, whether that's a team or one person.
Yeah.
they take these models, and what happens?
Yeah, so if you're taking all the models, you basically are, again, adding merge models. You're downloading all those models from an FTP site typically. The problem with that is, like we talked about, maybe, the electrical guy doesn't upload his model in time, right. Or, maybe the architect uploads an earlier version of his model, thereby replacing the most current, quote unquote version of that model.
Right.
Basically, when you run those reports thereby you're not using the right data, so there's no way you can effectively run coordination on it. And it just causes a ton of confusion, causes time stoppage. So, and that's, again, usually managed in Navisworks managed.
And one thing there is, you mentioned it, every 2 weeks you're uploading. What if the architect makes this massive, drastic change? I heard a story, I think it was last week, where the structure actually impeded into the architectural ceiling, or however they wanted to put it. Mm-hmm. And now there's a huge problem, because once structure gets fabricated, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, steel it's not a pliable material. Same with concrete, it's not a pliable. Right. So by waiting 2 weeks is a long time, especially the way that technology allows us to design in the ways that we do now.
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally, that's a phone call being made, right? I mean, let's face it.
You'd hope.
That's what you hope.
Hope there's some sort of check.
Yeah, but we all know that, that sometimes just doesn't happen out there. And if you are on those 2 week cadences, that, definitely certain things can change. And then you don't even realize it that first day. You realize it Thursday when you're actually getting to that point in the model. So I think the BIM 360 glue workflow and, the idea that you can share models a lot quicker, show your intent as you're moving through the process a lot faster. You don't have to work through those 2 week cadence stopgaps. So
your collaboration, you're bringing the teams closer together, and it doesn't matter where they are. You could have someone in Boston who maybe was at the Pats game really late.
Oh God.
Oh boy. But they'll get that model right away. As soon as you upload it, because it's all in that cloud connectivity.
And we're all talking about time. I mean, the time savings here. I mean, we're talking about overwritten files. We're talking about mistakes. We're talking about a bunch of things that lead to delays. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
We're talking about massive delays.
Yep.
And if you look at a traditional coordination process, you've got basically in a week scenario, you've got these entities agreeing upon a specific time to upload information.
Right.
And again, if that goes off the rails, in this case, we've got somebody, we won't say who here, the MEP entity has forgot to upload it up on the said time, which delays this whole process. And so we end up with a Monday through Wednesday cycle here that ends up getting delayed.
Yep.
And what we'll do is then show what can happen in BIM 360 and using a glue process.
Right.
So let's fast forward here a little bit. This guy. So this is basically another way to look at it, right? Maybe you guys just talk to this. What's going on? What happens?
Right. Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
It looks like, right out of the gate, the civil trade and the structural trade are able to coordinate with each other directly. Forget about the manager. Forget about the architect.
Yeah.
Do it together to figure it out. It's really important, especially when you're looking at civil and heavy construction. You want to make sure that foundation is in the right spot. You want to make sure that your steel is getting dropped in the right spot, because that delay in that steel could delay the painter, who could be 9, 10, 15 months down the line, and it has that ripple effect. Mm-hmm. Again, structural and MEP, extremely important. Out here in our building here, we get some duct that is sitting right underneath the steel beam. You're not going to be able to do that if you don't communicate and collaborate with each other. I think that's, and again, I love how you don't see the architect in it. Not that, you want to eliminate an entity from the design process, but if you don't need to involve someone and you can resolve it on your own, that's a win right there.
Yeah, that's the total idea, right? Open up lines of communication across the extended team that maybe not have always been there, right? I mean, usually it's gone through that gatekeeper, and this kind of blows the doors off that, allows teams to function, coordinate complex areas directly. You don't have to wait for that huge aggregated model.
I love that, because if I look at this, I'm saying each day I've got some resolution of a clash between an entity or entities.
Yep.
And by the time I get to my original old process of Friday, I've already worked through potentially hundreds of different clashes and even gets with resolution.
Yeah.
By the time I end up with that
I got to jump in here. That was my least favorite part of getting the reports in Navisworks was
on a Friday when you might want to dip out early.
Thousands of line items. I mean, we had huge building projects, and
how good were you resolving those on a Friday?
Yeah, you get the element ID and go search for it in the Revit model, and that process takes time, and it's a little frustrating because it doesn't take you to a direct view. That's a whole nother aspect of Glue that I personally really like, is the ability to actually notify out users, right? I don't love getting the emails every time. It's useful if I need to look at a markup and stuff, but nonetheless, I do know if something's been assigned to me, which is great. And then on the Catch-22, I can Clash pinpoint this directly in Revit. So I can look at an actual report that's been assigned to me, what's been notified to me, using Clash pinpoint, view it actually in my Revit model. So I'm making fixes a lot faster than going through that element search.
It's almost a quote-unquote do your job.
Could be.
You started this on this.
I know.
You started this.
Well, what I think I know what we're saying here. I think one of the things that we should talk about is a little bit of how Navisworks and BIM 360 Glue work together. I think what I love about this, we just defined really the benefit of a cloud-based coordination BIM management solution, which is BIM 360 Glue.
Exactly.
How do they work together? What do we tell people? What's the best practice for them working together?
And it starts in the authoring software. It starts where you create that model. And the entire BIM process, it's as good as what you put into it. And that's the key. So if you take that time, and I actually do love this infographic where each trade is building their own model. And right now, the way that they're coordinating or taking what the architect is doing and building their designs off of it, they're waiting for it to go on the FTP site. Well, why bother waiting for that upload download time and you're stuck because you can't touch the model because you can't lock it out? Why don't you just take that right out of the authoring software, dump it into the cloud, and then allow everybody else to either pull that down or pull the Revit model? Maybe just use it as a repository and you can grab the model whenever you want and link yours in, glue your stuff back. It's a lot more I think I've used the word dynamic before, but I think that's a very key word. It's not static.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. You can use it in that FTP file share if you want. You can share your raw Revit models. But I think the key value and the differentiator for me, right, the conversation always leads to this one aspect at a certain point for me when I try to differentiate the two, which is, look, if you're a Power Navisworks user and you still want to run those formal reports, we're not taking it away. It is
for it, right?
Because
why not?
Navisworks is a great tool for that.
Absolutely.
Definitely. But what we're also saying is, look, don't have that 2-week stopgap or that week stopgap. Enable the team through Glue. Let them share and coordinate as quickly as possible. Knock out those items so that you're drastically reducing the amount of line items you're going through in those coordination meetings, and you're keying on the more critical design issues as a team.
Totally, yeah.
So can you show us on how you get that model out from the authoring software, toss it up into BIM 360 Glue?
Super quick, right?
It's almost seamless. It's just a couple clicks of a button.
Right.
And to go on what you were saying, you can still have that 2-week coordination, in Navis. And that slide that Jared showed us earlier with having the different trades chat with each other and coordinate off of each other at once.
Yep.
They're then able to just pull down and I guess what I'm really trying to say is they're able to soften a lot of that noise and amplify what they actually really need to focus on.
Yep.
So the cool thing here, now that we're looking at Revit, is it's all built in. So the BIM 360 Glue plugin is built into all authoring software, AutoCAD-based, Revit, Navisworks.
Yep.
So you're able to push stuff directly right in real time.
Yeah.
I think, and that's one of the things I want to talk about real quick here, is what makes Navisworks and Glue so symbiotic? Because I think as of 2016, they actually are really super connected.
Yeah.
And that plug-in notion that is part of Revit and AutoCAD does not exist in the newer versions of Navisworks. And maybe you guys can just talk through what that is now. If somebody wants to save a model from Glue down to Navisworks or save a model back up into Glue, how that works.
So effectively, I think it depends on what the initial means of accessing it is, right? If you're opening a Revit model, obviously you have the glue connection right within the authoring tool. You can post it up. If you're opening off the cloud-based version, you can just do a file save as directly from Navisworks. You can open off of glue directly through that portal.
Or just a simple Control S and it pops it right back in.
Pops it right back in. Just
That's
reversions the model as a
awesome.
timestamp, user stamp, so you can track exactly what has occurred.
That's pretty awesome. So when we talked about how, that one time that you uploaded the wrong model,
that time
you would get caught red-handed, and everything is there for you.
Right. So that's part of it too. Like obviously working through, like we see on the screen, the views, being able to share those effectively back and forth from BIM 360 Glue to Navisworks. That's one thing a lot of our customers, I've been having that conversation like we talked about a lot lately, want to be able to set up views in Navisworks, just a friendlier, more familiar environment for them. Those views are very much still there in Glue, even more so enabled because they can actually access them in the field, right?
Awesome.
Be able to reference those views, see those relationships while they're actually in the space. Very powerful capability there.
And it's pretty awesome too with the the clash detection that you can do in Glue, where that structural guy can say, hey, MEP contractor, we got a tight spot right here. Here's a bunch of clashes that I found. Let's work through them together. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about that pinpoint, you just assign that back to somebody. And it's all associated to your single sign-in, which is pretty awesome. So you don't need to have any special roundabout way to get to where you need to go. You can just get there right through the clash pinpoint that will be found in the program itself.
Yeah.
So one of the things too is that clash detection in Navisworks, and we've talked a lot about Glue and what it's able to do, but what about the interoperability between getting something from Navisworks and using it in Glue and maybe assigning that out, especially if you look at it maybe a mechanical room, or here in our triangle building, I'm sure there was a lot of coordination that had to go into the points of the building itself. That power user in Navis, how does he or she leverage that information? Like how does he or she take that merge model that we already have up there, that all the other trades are pushing up there, but that VDC, that BIM manager, what do they do?
Yeah, from my end, it's basically just file open through the BIM 360 tab in Navisworks.
That's it.
I was expecting something a little more elaborate.
That's
let's be clear. Let's be clear. BIM 360 tab, click the three dots, and you will open that model.
But I think that's the part of the confusion is it is really easy.
Yeah.
And I think that's literally, guys, it's a file open.
Yeah.
And you open that model right from the cloud.
Right.
So to your question, I mean, let's demystify this. I mean, this is not a versus question. This is an and question. If you're a power user of Navisworks, keep your Navisworks, enable the team with a cloud-based collaboration solution, and go gonzo on using Navisworks like you have. Except now you've got a cloud-based solution to communicate much better and avoid those pitfalls, overwriting files, late discipline models, hitting review, all that stuff.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for me, if I'm in that position, I want anything that's going to make that whole process a lot easier, right? It's going to save me time, frustration, confusion.
Yeah.
Well, look at the biggest thing. When you save time, what else are you saving? Money. It's the bottom line. If you're saving time, you're saving money. And it allows you to, I think, be able to focus on the things that really need the focus, as opposed to some of the pedantic, some of that granular stuff that these solutions can help resolve just by adapting them and adopting them into your workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not spending time corralling data. You're spending time fixing your project.
Exactly. And the other cool thing, too, is you can be anywhere. I mean, that file, that merged model sits up in the cloud. Mm-hmm. You got to leave the office. You got to go anywhere. You want to go camping. Maybe you don't have.
I do.
Well, yeah, you like camping.
I do want to go camping.
I'm sure you do. Or you could be, sitting in a summer house, and as long as you have that internet connection, you can grab that model down.
Yeah.
Markups.
Yep.
You can share information back and forth. I mean, a lot of teams are just completely disconnected. That collaborating across the Atlantic, across the Pacific, you have that ability as long as you are able to overcome that language barrier, which you would have to anyways.
I mean, how
many, all it together.
How many of our customers have owners who want to be a part of this process, at least have have purview and insight into. I mean,
Yep.
I've met them where they want to be a part of it, and that contractor, God willing, is can give them access through BIM 360 Glue to this process on their iPad.
Yeah.
They can view it. They can take a look. They can see the process.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way, if it so be, that they can actually view all this behind the scenes.
Yep.
It's awesome.
So
Absolutely.
For the question that I posed at the beginning, what is the difference? It really is, how are they connected?
It's an and.
It's an and.
Yeah.
It's Navisworks and BIM 360 Glue.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's what we
awesome.
should be saying. Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
So,
well, want to thank you guys. It's been a great time.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for watching. Please let us know what you think. Any questions, concerns, let us know. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.